Myth. You never have to identify yourself to police. You'll often hear people say that unless police place you under arrest, they cannot require you to provide your name. This idea is frequently repeated online, especially in videos about knowing your rights. But the law is more nuanced than that. Law. In R.V. Moore, the Supreme Court of Canada considered whether police can require a person to identify themselves while officers are carrying out their lawful duties. The case involved a cyclist who had committed a traffic offense. When the officer stopped him and asked for his name, the cyclist refused to provide it. He argued that he did not have to identify himself because he was not under arrest. The issue eventually reached the Supreme Court of Canada. The court concluded that when police are lawfully performing their duties, a person may be required to provide identifying information in certain circumstances. The court explained that requiring identification can be necessary for police to properly enforce the law. For example, during traffic enforcement, officers must be able to identify drivers in order to issue tickets or enforce highway safety legislation. This is why drivers are required to provide their driver's license when lawfully stopped by police. Without the ability to identify the person involved, enforcing those laws would become extremely difficult. But the key point from R.V. Moore is that this authority depends on the legal context. There must be lawful authority requiring identification. In regulated situations like traffic enforcement, provincial legislation often requires a person to identify themselves. Similar requirements can exist under other statutes depending on the circumstances. However, outside of those situations, things can be different. During a voluntary interaction, where a person is not detained and no specific law requires identification, a person may choose whether or not to provide their name. So the important question is not simply whether police ask for identification. The real question is whether police have lawful authority to require it. So the myth is that you never have to identify yourself to police. But the law, confirmed in R.V. Moore, is that identification may be required when police are lawfully carrying out their duties under specific legal authority. Understanding that distinction is important for both the public and police officers. This is not legal advice, just a briefing on Canadian case law.